Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Sideline Eye podcast. We're looking ahead to a massive weekend of championship action this weekend as we're looking towards the intermediate and senior quarterfinals. It's all about knockout football this time of the year, and intermediate and senior will be down to the last four come Monday evening. There's a game on Monday as well. I've Mark Beattie joining me once again, and Mark, it's a massive weekend. We're just talking off air there. Between the intermediate and the senior, there's some absolute brilliant games to look forward to this weekend.
Yeah, brilliant. We spoke about some of the teams that had to play in the playoffs last week who would have been expected to be in quarterfinals. And now, some of them teams who maybe people would have looked at second, third favourites for the championship are now coming in to play the big guns in the last eight. It's just I can't wait. I just can't wait for all the matches. Really some brilliant games to look forward to. I think the way the draw was, it's most teams are evenly matched. Everyone's going to believe they're going to win. So yeah, just even you think of St. Peter's and Cullyhanna and the seniors. St. Peter's have an opportunity to go to a semi-final of the senior championship for the first time in maybe 30 odd years. That's a massive goal for them. The intermediate, the likes of Derrynoose there, going in against Shane O'Neill's, just again, what a lift for that club, to go now and get to maybe that semi-final intermediate and kick on, and who knows where this is going to take them. So it's just brilliant. It's brilliant for all the clubs that are involved, and and it's anybody's at the moment, especially intermediate. I think it's a real, you can pick one out of a hat, and it could be. It's just every team has a real opportunity of winning that championship.
Yeah, we'll start with intermediate because we'll do the four intermediates and four seniors. And you mentioned Derrynoose, they're taking on Shane O'Neill's on Saturday. This is in Greenmore. And these two teams met last year, Mark, in Crossmaglen. It went to extra time, and Derrynoose, they got 4 goals. It just about got over the line. But the talk is Conor Macken's in Australia, and I'm not sure how true that is, or if he's not going to be available this weekend or whatever. But if he's not there, Derrynoose are maybe just edging this, Mark, in terms of favouritism.
Yeah, there's a lot of talk about Conor Macken not making. I've heard that this last week or so. If he's not there, that really gives Derrynoose the edge for me. They've been going along really well. The confidence is really high. The league success, they've kicked on in the championship as well. So and I know by talking to a couple of guys I know fairly well in Derrynoose, they're really, really believing in this group of players. And it's no individuals, it's a real collective. The whole team seems to be just rolling in behind them, and there's a belief there that they can really do something. Shane O'Neill's, I spoke about them earlier in the year about how strong they looked when Mackin and McCabe came back in, but that would be a real disappointing for Shane O'Neill's if they've lost Conor Mackin for this match, because with him playing and McCabe and the way the whole team just gels when them boys come back in, I would have definitely been tipping them to really go far in this championship. But as you say, that's really changed now. The fact that by all accounts he's not going to be available for this weekend, so definitely I think that gives Derrynoose a massive edge going into this game. But like we've seen a lot in the championship, these teams are coming in here. Shane O'Neill's, instead of relying on these McCabe and Mackin and these guys, the rest of the guys now, you're going to expect one or two other players to step up here and try and kick on and give Shane O'Neill's the edge. But for me, it's going to give Derrynoose another lift to already where they're at, and I think that's going to be enough to get them over the line.
The two of them, Mark, we're probably going to say this for a couple of teams, but it's Shane O'Neill's obviously topped the group with 3 wins from 3. Derrynoose lost their first round game to Sarsfields only by a point, but they've won the last 3 games. So both sides coming in, confidence, momentum, belief, and everything else that comes with winning games. Like they're both in a really good place.
Yeah, and as I said, I seen Shane O'Neill's in the first game. They were really impressed me. Clonard in seconds that night was probably the best performance that they've put in to date in their championship games, and Shane O'Neill still tipped them in Clonard. So I really was expecting Shane O'Neill's to move on here and to go really far. But as we spoke about, Conor Mackin makes it. He will be a massive loss to him if he's not there. But in saying that, there's still belief in the group. They have won their 3 games. There's momentum in training. They're training hard, and that's going to give them the belief still that they can do this. They'll believe that they can definitely beat Derrynoose. There's no question about that. But on the other hand, Derrynoose have the same. They're coming in with a back of 3 wins as well, and their one defeat was a 1-point defeat to Sarsfields. Sarsfields are going really well. Top team in in 2A, and so far in the championship they've been really impressive. So that and Derrynoose were winning that game by all accounts up until the last 5 or 10 minutes of the game. So that would have given them even belief as well, and that bit of confidence in the performance they put in that day. And then they did kick on and they won their next 3 games. So the momentum to me, is really there with Derrynoose, and for me, this is a real opportunity to get over the line against Shane O'Neill's and move on to the semi-final.
Yeah, I think I'm with you there, Mark. I think I'm just going to give Derrynoose the edge as well. As you say, Conor Mackin's just a huge... If he's not there, we have an asterisk behind these predictions, maybe a wee bit, since we're not 100% if he's not going to be there. But if the top's true and he's not there, I think that just gives Derrynoose the edge. Sunday then we'll have Forkhill against St Paul's. This one's in Ballymacnabb. And again, maybe a key man missing. The talk is as well, Owen McComble's possibly going to miss this one. He went off injured against Whitecross in the playoffs. So that, like the first game we talked about, that evens things up as well here, Mark.
Definitely. Owen he came off injured and he's been shooting the lights out. You're guaranteeing 68 points a game off him. And just in general play, he scores a lot from frees, but also it's just all round game. Being in the county panel in the last year or so has really improved as well. His own performances, and he's not just now to look down the Muirnin. They have Owen there as well, who he's became a real key player to this St Paul's team, and if he's not available, that sort of shortens it for St Paul's. It'll give Forkhill a lift. They really have to go out. Maybe they'll be thinking if they can stop Muirnin, then that's going to be the key to their success. But just in general, St Paul's have a lot of players there. Ryan Lawless, McPartland, these guys who they have the experience of being involved in these games, and to me, players like that are key to getting teams like St Paul's over the line whenever there is a player or two missing. So it's still I feel that St Paul's will be well and truly favourites going into this game, whether Owen's fit or available or not. But it just gives that wee bit of incentive for Forkhill to believe that there's a game here that they can go and win now. Because if Owen would have been fit and St Paul's at full tilt, I couldn't have seen anything else, only a St Paul's victory. But as I say, that just narrows the gap a wee bit, the fact that he's not going to be available.
I suppose you mentioned Andrew Muirnin. It'll be interesting to see what Forkhill do with him, Mark. Does Stephen Sheridan maybe track him? And Sheridan has played full back at different times for Armagh down through the years. So is he just going to follow him all around the field, play? If Muirnin comes out to midfield, that'll suit Sheridan okay. Maybe if he has to go in full back, he can do a job there too. So it's going to be interesting just to see what Forkhill decide to do.
Yeah, but even if Sheridan, I think, goes to full back and Andy stays in at full forward, which mightn't happen, because Owen's been shifting in and out as well. So I'd say that now what's going to have to happen is Andrew's going to have to move from full forward to midfield, and Sheridan probably will. If he goes to midfield, he'll be more than happy going one-on-one with him. If Andy goes to full forward, you'd expect Sheridan then to be doubling up on him. Coming in, yes, marking him for that aerial battle, but what Andy Muirnin's brilliant at is he's able to sort of flick his own ball down and win the second ball as well. So that's when you need somebody else there. So when he's in a full forward and St Paul's are winning enough ball out around the middle, you need to be double teaming him, because they have players out there, players that I've already mentioned. When they get on the ball, they'll get the right ball in them. That nice diagonal ball hanging in the air for him just to come and win. So when he's able to be left inside, you need to double up on him, and that doesn't matter whether it's Forkhill or whether that's Carey or who it is. He's that big of a danger.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I agree with that, Mark. I think you have to remember last year in the final, I think I can't remember who marked Mernon, but Adam Matthews he wasn't sweeping. He was detailed just to double mark Andrew Mernon. So he is that key. Like that teams do have to do that. Who are we going here, Mark? Who do you give the edge to?
I still feel that St. Paul's will win this game. As said, it's definitely not as comfortable as what I would have expected if they were a full team. But the fact that Owen's missing, that they'll need to look for another spread of scores, which mightn't just be there. So I still expect them to win, but I think Forkhill's going to run them really close.
Yeah, I'm in full agreement with that. I think I'm just going with St. Paul's, but for Forkhill, I'm definitely not going to write them off. Also on Sunday then with Sarsfields against Keady, this is at 3 o'clock in Abbey Park. And again, could be the story of a missing man. James O'Hara picked up an injury against Ballymacnab in the playoffs, so I'm not sure if he's going to be fit to play or not. But this is another tough one to call, Mark, because both teams probably have their eyes set on giving this championship a real rattle. So one of them's going to be knocked out come Sunday evening.
Yeah, but where Sarsfields are at, and I've seen the Paul Neyman McGowan who've got themselves in serious condition this year as well, and playing really well, and just in general, this Sarsfields team, everything seems to be just clicking into gear for them. I had tipped St. Paul's at the start of the year. If I was able to change my mind now, I would probably be sort of siding towards Sarsfield. So I think Keady's going to be up against it. O'Hara, who has been brilliant, I've seen him over the last number of years. He's put in some really big performances for Keady, and he's keyed everything to do. So, if he's not available, that's going to be a massive loss for him. A massive loss, and Sarsfields are playing that surely. And, I just feel, just as a collective, just all over the field, of a couple of players coming towards the end as well, who probably want to finish off with a championship victory as well. So there's a real hunger there from Sarsfields. They've also a couple of players who have come back into the fold from us who have been away in Australia, and a couple of them has come in that sort of add to the squad, and one or two injuries that look like are clearing up that could make them available, maybe not this week, but maybe further down the line as well. So just as going forward, I think Sarsfields are in a real good place. And I think they'll just have too much for Keady come the weekend.
Yeah, you were saying about boys going back from Australia. I was trying to sort of, if you compare the two teams, we're talking about maybe James O'Hara not being fit. I'm not sure if Tomas Galvin will play or not. He played against Ballymacnab, but he doesn't play in every championship game, so I'm not sure if he's going to be available. While you have Killeavy McAlin back in, scored a goal in their last game for Sarsfields, so Keady could possibly be down two of their starting forwards from the last day, while Killeavy McAlin's going to come in. That's 3 weeks ago since they played Ballymacnab, so he's going to have 3 weeks under his belt and possibly going to be in for a starting spot.
Yeah, no, and that's the key competition for places. The fact that them boys have come back in. I'm not sure. I don't think Tommy Maghery played in that game either, and he's not far away from being fully fit. So that's another boost for the Sarsfields. The fact that the game's on a Sunday might free up Galvin to be able to play at the weekend. So that'll be a huge lift for them. But we don't know what way that works out. But if both them guys are missing, then it's definitely I'd be swaying towards the Sarsfields anyway. But the fact that O'Hara mightn't be available, I'm definitely edging towards the Sarsfields.
Yeah, I'm the same. I think I'll give the edge to Sarsfields as well. Monday night then, we're in Claddagh, Grange against Clonard Seconds, and I have this in my head, Mark. The only way I can describe this is pace against power. I don't know how fair that is, but you have Grange, who is a couple of big, strong men around the middle of the field there, while Clonard are small, they're young, they're pacey. So this is just going to be a clash of styles.
Well, I'll correct you on that a bit, because watching, and I didn't realize this myself, and I see them all the time, but whenever I was at the last game, I just, when I was starting, I was actually commentating on it, and when I really looked at that Clonard team around the middle of the field, we were really big. We were real big. Owen McCaffrey, Finn Creary, you had Andy Moe on the bench. James Moriarty came off the bench. These guys are all 6 foot plus, and they can go and field balls. So there is a lot of, small players in around the forward line, nippy, quick. really skillful. But in round the middle, there's big, strong fellas there now that and with plenty of running, which might work well against the Grange. But when you're talking about the Grange, you're talking about the three Raffertys, you're talking about Malin, you're talking about these guys who are all big, strong fellas, no question about it. But I mentioned this before, it's a bit like Maghery when you take them out of there and go to flag grounds. Do they change or how do they adapt this here? The Grange as well have had, a couple of home games in the Grange, which they won, and then the other game was Knockmore, so they were places that suit them. Keady is maybe a bit more of an open sort of field, bigger, and it might suit the running game of Clonerne a bit more. But there's no question Clonerne have to curtail Ethan Rafferty. He has been on top form throughout the championship. So have we got anyone physically big enough to go toe to toe with him and really stop his performance? If we do, that'll go a long way for Clonerne winning this game. So there's a couple of key battles there that they'll have to do. But the other question is, do Grange have the defence to stop that speed and skill that we have in this forward line of Clonerne? Because it's all over the field, and then they have players on the bench who can come on as well. So it's shaping up to be a good game, as you say. It's two contrasted styles, and it really could be a real tight affair,
I think it's going to be a really enjoyable game, Mark, for a neutral, because I've seen both teams once live, and I come away from Clonerne going, they're just mad, hungry for goals. They'll go for a goal every time and maybe kick a point if the goal's off. And I've seen the Grange, and I come away going, geez, they have some 2-point kickers. It's unbelievable. So I think I was tallying it up this morning. I think Clonerne have scored 14 goals, the top goal scorer in the competition, and the Grange are mad. Like, they have some huge 2-point kickers. Ethan or Robert Dara Malin all fit to kick 2-pointers. So it could be a bit of a shootout. There could be goals at one end, 2-pointers at the other, and it has the potential to be a really brilliant game.
Yeah, sometimes it frustrates the Clonerne supporters when you see Ewan Maghery and Rogie and these guys, Cohen Henderson, they're coming through, and it's just on their head all the time, and that's that sort of youth. They just believe that they can beat anybody and go through, and they're going to score goals every time they go up the field. So sometimes you just wish that they would, take themselves back a step or two and just stoke a few over the bar. But every time they go forward, because they're so quick, they just believe they're going to beat the next man and get themselves in and goal. And it seems to be in the last 10, sort of 15 minutes that, when some teams are starting to get tired, these guys just seem to kick on. And that's when the goal chances arrive. And even the last day, they scored a goal fairly late on as well. And it just seemed to be able to do it at ease at come that stage. But you're right in saying, the likes of Ethan, Malin and these guys, they will kick points from distance, and we have to stop that out the field, not let them get in around that arc, which I'm sure Clonerne will be setting up to try and and maybe double up on Ethan when he's in that area, because he just seems to loop around there, comes off it, and he drives to the middle, and he can kick from serious distance. Even free kicks and stuff like that, you have to watch where you're fouling, because he'll be able to score from outside that 45. You think sometimes when you're fouling outside there, that's okay, but against the Greens, it's not okay, because he'll still be able to step up and kick them. So, listen, it'll be a really, to me, this is going to be a top game in the intermediate this weekend. It'll be a real tight affair, and as you say, it should be a real high-scoring game as well.
Yeah, I think this has the potential to be an absolute cracker. Who are you going with, Mark? I have a feeling I know who you're going to say, but sure, give it to us anyway.
Yeah, listen, to be honest, from the Shane O'Neill's game, and I've been saying this to a few of the boys and a couple of managers, I haven't been impressed by us. I don't think we've been anywhere near our best. Throughout the league, we were very unfortunate not to come away with a couple more wins when I thought we were playing really well. But in the last couple of games against the Tones, I didn't think we were great. I think there's so much more in us. If we do improve on that, then I think we're going to be very hard to beat, and I would definitely sideways. But the performances in the last couple of matches, I don't think will be good enough to beat the Grange. So I'm hoping that that's going to come on Monday night, and if it does, I think that Clonerne will win and go to the semi-final.
I think I'm just going to go with Grange. As I say, it's possibly going to be a bit of pace against power, and I would usually go for pace, but I just think the 2 point kickers Grange have a lot bit of experience too, maybe of having won an intermediate a couple of years ago. I'll give them the edge, but probably only just to mix it up a wee bit and go so we're not saying the same thing over and over again, Mark.
I hope you're.
But as I say, that's Monday night. The seniors, then it's starting Friday. It's going to be Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Cullyhanna against St Peters kicks everything off on Friday night, Mark. And probably when the draw was made, you're going, yeah, Cullyhanna is going to come out of that one. But the closer it gets, the more I was really impressed with St Peters in the second half last week. So this mightn't just be as straightforward as you maybe would have thought at the start.
I don't think it will. And I think what we've seen at the weekend from St Peters was a team, they were nervous. There was no question in that first half. They seemed to be a nervous team. There was a lot of silly mistakes that if that happens again, Cullyhanna will, should put a big enough lead up against them. So that's something that they'll really be looking at this week, how poorly they played in the first half, how easy they give ball away. We could put that down to conditions as well, because the conditions were terrible, mass downpours just before the game. So, but just in general, when they had the ball in certain areas, when they should have been keeping the ball, they were giving it away too easily. That won't do against Cullyhanna. When you get to the stage of the championship, these teams will really punish you. But what you've seen in the second half was a team who came into that change room and all the good work that they've done the last rounds of the league over the course of the championship to date. That was basically threw out on the table and said, we're not going out like this, and they came back out with that confidence that they've gained throughout them last number of matches, and you could just see it in them, and you could see Niall McConville just absolutely leading them, and Rory McDonald having a massive performance, Aaron Fenton around the middle of the field, getting on a lot of ball, and they were just prepared to die on the ball. Every opportunity they got, they went for every ball 110%, and that's massive. So it is, and you can see that's in them. And on the flip side of that, there are Killeavy starting to do then exactly what St Peters had done in the first half, and then that momentum went with St Peters and they got over the line. But that's going to need to happen for 45, 50 minutes of this game on Friday night to give them any sort of chance. St Peters might be happy enough that they avoided Clonerne, that they avoided Crossmaglen, but at the same time, what they have to realise is that Cullyhanna are very happy that they got St Peters. Whenever the draw was being made, they would have been looking at the teams coming through. They probably were happy enough not to get Killeavy or Madden. And the bottom line is they got the St Peters, and that would have been a draw that they wanted to keep them going and know that, there's a couple of fellas still out for Cullyhanna. They'll be hoping then that this will get them another win and get them into the semi-final. But as you say, when it gets this stage, it's key that St Peters don't let Cullyhanna get the opportunities to get ahead of them, stay in the game for as long as they can, and then when they come to the second half, you just never know what's going to happen.
I think Cullyhanna, I think we've spoke about it before, Mark, that they're coming from behind to win games, so Peters might get that opportunity to be ahead or to keep in it, because Cullyhanna, they came from behind the last couple of minutes to beat Madden. They were trailing at half time against the Oaks and against Mullabon, so they haven't really been able to piece together a 60-minute performance yet. So it's probably, this game's going to come up down to, it sounds obvious to say, but whoever can string together the best performance for the longest time is going to come out here.
Yeah, who can be the most consistent throughout it. But, and I've talked St Peters up there with where they've came from and how well they've done. But at the same time, if Cullyhanna believe that, they can go far in this championship, they can really mix with the big guns. This is a game where they have to come out and start to show it and show, this should be a game where they come in here and at half time, having that 5 or 6 point lead, trying to really get a 60-minute performance here, and then in the second half kicking on and beating them. If that doesn't happen and they struggle to get ahead of St Peters, well, St Peters are going to grow. That confidence is already there. They're going to start believing that they can really, get over the line here and beat a big team like Cullyhanna. So it's key for Cullyhanna to get off to a good start, to try and get that consistency in their performance. And if they do that, they should win this game, fairly comfortably. But if they don't, and they let St. Peter's grow in the game, or let St. Peter's get ahead of them, they could really be struggling coming down the line here, coming in the last 10, 15 minutes. And there's no question that St. Peter's have worked seriously on their fitness levels over the last 2 to 3 months. And just in general, their way they've set up, that you can see that there's been a lot of work put into getting behind the ball, and then that pace that they have in Rory McDonald and Genesi, and still now McConville still having that ability to beat men and kick long range scores as well. So and that's what they'll be looking to feed off come the weekend. So Cullyhanna can't afford to let this game to stay tight. They want to be kicking on and getting ahead, and once the opportunity arises to really put St. Peter's to bed and win this game handy enough, and then they'll be thinking, now we move on to the tougher tests ahead.
Who do you see coming out? Is it Cullyhanna you're going for then, Mark, or who are you going for?
I will.
Yeah, I think I'm going Cullyhanna as well. Although I don't, as I say, I think it's St. Peter's are well in with a chance. But I think Cullyhanna is just going to come out on top there. With Crossmaglen and Carrickcruppen then on Saturday night, Mark, and again, all these group toppers all coming in off a 3-week layoff, and it's probably going to be, a lot of the games could be whatever way it goes. You're going to say, oh, well, the 3-week layoff helped, or the games and the momentum and everything helped. But Carrickcruppen certainly coming in with a lot of momentum ever since that. We talk about it every week, 10 points down against the Harps. They've just got the switch and they've won 3 games in a row now.
Yeah, and a couple of big performances by a couple of real key players for them. Matthews and Owen Woods and these guys, and they have kicked on, and they've nasty sat down after their first performance and where we're going from here. They could easily have threw the towel in. They didn't. They got back up and at it, and as I said, the Harps game was a massive performance for them, and then they've just kicked on from there. Last weekend, Greenmore bound to be kicking themselves, getting going down to the 14 men. I'm not saying they looked comfortable. It looked like it was going to be a real close affair. But if it's kept 15 men in the field, who knows what would have happened. But fair play to Carrickcruppen. They once they got the opportunity and they got the chance, they took it and got over the line against Greenmore, which was a fantastic win. Now they're up against it again. I think they're coming in again against a Crossmaglen team who some people are writing off, and they have injuries and this, but Crossmaglen's 3 matches, 3 wins. They can do no more than that. Maybe not as comfortable as a lot of people thought, but they've still 3 wins under their belt, and that's the way Cross do things. They build themselves into the championship. They're doing the same again this year. So Carrickcruppen, as well as they've done in the last 3 matches, and the momentum that they should have and the confidence that them games are bound to give them, will that be enough to make them really believe that they can go and beat Crossmaglen? I'm not so sure, but there's no question that they're going to put up a far better show than they have done. Against we look at Clonard as probably being one of the big team, and this is another big team now they're going to face, and I think they'll put up a much better performance than they did there. I still don't think it'll be enough to get over the line at the weekend, but certainly they'll give it some rattle.
I think Cross, as you say, Mark, they've done all they can. They won 3 games, whatever, by margin victory or whatever, it doesn't matter. They've won all 3. And possibly Oisín O'Neill going to be back in contention this weekend as well. So, if he's coming back in, it leaves it a very stiff challenge for Carrickcruppen.
Yeah, well, I'm surprised to hear that, because I was told Cross had about 15 players out, and nobody really able to field the team. I was told there a couple of weeks ago, but no, listen, if Oisín, I didn't know that, and if he's now, back in the fray, and I'm sure he gets some sort of game time then at the weekend, that's another big player for them coming back in right at the right time. So yeah, no, that's massive for them, and but yeah, this is what Cross do. People write them off. People say that it's between Clonard and Killeavy or Madden or whoever, and some people aren't even talking about Cross. They love that. That's just that's just perfect for Crossmaglen's mentality, and they're always going to be hard to beat. I think it's a good draw for them. I think it's a good draw. And we know that they have 2 or 3 players that are definitely struggling with injury. This may give them an opportunity just to give them a bit of game time. They maybe might need to go full tilt here at the weekend. The players that take the field will certainly be going full tilt, but maybe still be able to hold back on a couple of players in the hope that it'll get them ready and make sure they're definitely ready for the next round. And that's the way across and these teams will be thinking now. But to me, this is the one game where I feel that if Cross get it right, they should win this game by 5 or 6 points. And it's quarterfinal stage now, and they'll leave no stone unturned going into this game. They'll look at everything that Cruppen has to offer, but they'll believe that this is the real start of their championship. They get a win here, and then they'll move on and see what comes next.
I was reminded last week, Mark, after the Greenmore match, that me and you both tipped Greenmore. So I'd say we're probably going both Crossmaglen this week, but I'd say Cruppen, but happy enough for that.
I got a couple of text messages straight after. So yeah, but I did tell him that was the one I got wrong.
So
Crossmaglen for me. Yeah, it's Crossmaglen.
Yeah, I think so. The big one's Sunday, a big double header in the Athletic Grounds, Mark, and 2 games to really look forward to with Maghery and Madden here at 5 o'clock. And Maghery obviously really impressive in the group stages. 2 wins from 3, top the group of death. But you have Madden coming in now off the back of last week. I suppose we can talk about how disappointing the Harps were, but Madden, they kicked 25 points in a championship game. Like that's some scoring to be putting up, no matter how the opposition's set up or how the opposition do.
Yeah, no, and there's no doubt about it. Madden's coming good at the right time. The week before that against Mullabon as well. They put in a real good performance. And yeah, Mullabon maybe didn't put up a real good show either, but you have to beat what's in front of you. And really, sometimes games like that there, you can go down to teams' levels or whatever. Madden aren't doing that. Madden are doing, they've got their job to do, and they're all going out and doing it, and they're doing it for 60 minutes. And that's creating a real confidence within the group, and that's leading into this weekend. And to me, this is a perfect test one. I have said this before. When you go to Maghery, play in the group stages, it's the one place nobody wants to go. They're so hard to beat there. They look really good, especially the night against Killeavy. I know Killeavy got over the line against them, but they were still very impressive. And impressive in most of their group games. But this is different, I think, coming to Athletic Grounds, it just opens up a wee bit more, and I think it's going to suit the speed that Madden have in their team. But there's nobody like Maghery who likes to be rode, when they're rode off as well, you write them off with your pearl, because that they're gonna fight tooth and nail for every ball, and there's no question Madden are going to get one hell of a game at the weekend. Physically, Maghery will put it up to them. The players all over the field that can do damage, so it'll be a perfect test for Madden. I do believe Madden are going to kick on and go to the semi-final, but I think this is the perfect test for going into that semi-final and just give them that wee bit more confidence and that wee bit more belief. And I think I still think Madden will have too much of them. I see the likes of Dara McMullen are really coming to the fore at the weekend. Rafferty as well is impressed by him. Niall Grimley does what he does, and Conor Grimley, again, he does what he does. And these boys are top players, and they're just chomping at the bit to get over the line against Maghery. They just want more and more games, and this senior championship is something that these boys are really, really craving for.
I think that some of the matchups are going to be brilliant, Mark, because you'd mentioned a few of the key men. Like I'd imagine maybe Brendan Hebron's going to go on McMullen. Possibly, we're probably going to see Grimley and Crayley lining up against each other in the middle of the field too. At the other end, maybe a Donald Rafferty or somebody having to pick up Stephen Falker. So I think some of the matchups and individual battles we're going to see here could be really exciting too.
Yeah, and the standout one, that's Crayley and Grimley. Niall's playing out of his skin there at the moment. He's driving them on. What I've seen of Crayley so far, he's an absolute fantastic player. But with them two going toe to toe, that's enough for any game. It's worth it missing in on its own if them two go toe to toe against each other. to see who'll come out the better of that outcome. But even there's a couple more players in the Maghery forward line. Robson there, who's been really, really good at centre half forward. Lappin as well, still a real Holland to get hold of in full forward as well. So they have a lot of players. The key for Maghery is getting the ball once they win it around the middle and getting the ball into that full forward line as quickly as they can. And then Stefan and Loppy and these guys, they'll do the damage after that. But what I seen them last year, they weren't able to sort of transition quick enough. Once they were winning ball, it seemed to be too slow to get it to get into the full forward line. Well, it seems to be when they're in their home venue, they seem to be able to do that much more freely and much quicker. And if they can do that at the weekend, then these guys will cause serious damage to Madden inside. And that's what I'm saying. I think it's going to be the perfect test for Madden. This is a real good game for them. It's a real good test. As you said, the Harps, Mullabon, they racked up good scores, 25 points. But they weren't, to me, they still weren't tested. This is a proper test coming at the weekend. And if they can get over the line here, that's going to give them every opportunity of going even further in this championship.
Yeah, I think we're both going Madden here as well, Mark. But again, just chalking down as one that Maghery's going to give them a real game, and it'll be a real sort of. We'll see if Madden can win the championship this weekend, if you know what I mean. Like, they're coming up against a hardened, experienced championship winning side, so this is a massive test for Madden, but one I think they'll get over the line too. The big one then, Sunday evening is the clash of the champions, with the league champions coming up against the championship winners, Killeavy against Clonard. A huge game, Market. I think it was the one, maybe whoever Killeavy had got in the draw, it was either going to be Clonard, Cross, or Cullyhanna, so there's going to be a massive game no matter who they got. But coming in against Clonard, this is such a game to look forward to.
Yeah, it is for the neutral.
The neutral.
Yeah, it certainly is. Killeavy, as we spoke about Cullyhanna earlier, they haven't put in a 60-minute performance yet. To me, Killeavy haven't put 60-minute performances in either. Seen them a few times in the group stages, and really, when they play well, really impressive. I'm really been impressed by Fergal Boylan again at the weekend. Brilliant goal, just a real live wire. And Gareth Murphy as well, who I think has been outstanding, and that's backed up by the Kieran O'Hanlon's, who's just an 8 out of 10 man every week. Boylan, O'Hare, so there's so many players over this Killeavy team who have put in different performances for different periods of time. I just feel that it needs to be more consistent, especially coming up against Clonard, who went through the group stages fairly comfortable. We talk about the 3-week break, of championship games. That's a worry to a certain degree. I know they've had a couple of real good challenge games over the last couple of weeks, but it's still not championship. It's still not do or die, and that's what Killeavy's had, and that's a massive advantage, I think, for Killeavy going into this game. But as I say, for them to really give it to Clonard, they are going to need to give it for 60 minutes, and all them players to really perform to the best that they can, because this Clonard team's hungry for back-to-backs. The club's never done it before. It's just something that we'd love to see in the club, and we've seen how well they perform throughout the year with a lot of players missing and stuff, but everyone seems to be coming fit at the right time. And if Killeavy can give a real 60-minute performance in this weekend, we're in for a humdinger. This is going to be one hell of a game. Two teams will play in the front foot, and all of the field in around the middle. When you talk about matchups, you see TK and Boylan or O'Hare, whoever plays in around the middle. Maybe see a Shea Heffron, Mark and O'Hanlon. It's just really, really, it's going to be fantastic to see who's lining who, and it's a real match that I think everybody just can't wait to see.
Like you mentioned it there, Mark, and you hit the nail on the head. That why I'm so excited about it is because both teams play on the front foot, and I haven't seen Clonard live this year yet, but I've seen Killeavy, and They don't have any interest in defending. They're going to try to outscore you. I think Clonard's sort of something similar. They'll back their forwards. So not only is this so exciting in terms of the matchups, in terms of both sides being, top contenders for the championship, it's the fact this one could be 20 points plus each.
Yeah, that's what you expect. Now, in saying that, I feel if Killeavy do stay, like I seen both games in the league, and it was like especially the second game in Killeavy, it was one of the best matches I've seen all season. It was absolutely brilliant, and that was both teams were short, serious number of players, but both teams just went at it from start to finish, and it was just brilliant. It was, it was just all what the new rules have brought to the game. 2 pointers. It was actually a 2 pointer that won Killeavy the game, the last kick of the ball. I think McGuinness maybe kicked it right at the end. I'm not sure who it was, can't remember now, but it was a absolute fantastic score. And that's in Killeavy's locker too. They have three of the McGuinnesses and these guys. They can kick these 2 pointers as well. O'Hanlon can kick them. So you're going to maybe see a lot of that around the arc, a lot of play around there and trying to get them. But as we know, Clonard have them men as well. The Turbos, the Barries, TK, Don McCarthy. They're all fellas who can. It's well within their range to do that as well. No, it's just, as I say, I've seen the games in the league. They were brilliant. They were all in the front foot. I think that's where Killeavy just have to be wary. If they go front foot, they have to be a wee bit more patient and try and, at certain times, just be a wee bit more disciplined on the ball, keeping that ball around the middle field, making sure they got possession and, not just going gung-ho all the time. Because if they do that, Clonard will break them down. There will be periods where they will break them down and they will punish them. The speed breaking forward and that transition that Clonard can do, they will break forward and they will really punish them. And just cutting out some of the silly mistakes that you've seen against the Clans in the first half for Killeavy. A lot of ball to give away. I seen Stevie was saying about what he had to do at half time that night. It was just a real old style team talk to give them that kick up the ass and get them back out there in the second half and it worked. They went out and they performed. But anything like that first half against the Clans, Clonard will lead them up because this Clonard team doesn't do that anymore. You don't see this sort of inconsistent performance by them. But this is the worrying round. This is the worrying round for the Crossmaglens, Clonards, coming into this stage a wee bit cold. And as you've already pointed out, if they get beat, it'll be the 3-week layoff will be the reason, but if they win, they had a good break and, they're all fresh and ready to go. But to me, can be worrying because them first 10, 15 minutes, if you're not at the pace of it, some team can get away from you and then you're chasing the game. So all them things, but as I said, they've had a couple of good challenge games over the last number of weeks, which I think will keep them in good stead. And I still believe that Clonard will go to the semis. I just feel that they're just so strong all over the field and the bench and everything else that they have. But this is a proper test. This is going to be a real, as I say, but humdinger, especially if Killeavy can bring a real 60-minute performance. And it'll be the perfect test for Clonard. It's what they need because I don't think they were tested enough in the group stages. The Harps were a real letdown. Drummond T gave them a bit of a game, but they end up still a 6-7 point victory, and Cruppen gave them nothing in the first game. So there was nothing there. They weren't tested. While Killeavy, as we know, we talked about the group of death, they had 3 real tough games. And so they're coming in here full of confidence and and have been properly tested. So they'll be ready for this. And this is also the game that Killeavy's been looking.
Yeah.
They have to go now if they really believe, and we've spoken about this over the last number of years, to go and beat one of the big teams. We spoke about it about Madden as well. They have to beat one of the big 2 or 3. That in the last couple of years was the Clans. They never got over the line the championship against them. It was Crossmaglen's. It was the Clonards. And now they've got Clonard, who is most people's favourites for this championship. This is it. This is their time to shine and their time to go out and say, we have got what it takes. There's been people who have questioned Killeavy in the last number of years for different reasons. this is their time now to go and prove that they've got what it takes. I still don't think it's going to be enough, but this is their opportunity.
I think you've summed that up brilliantly, Mark. I think that's spot on how this game, the perfect way to preview that game, I think. Um, I'm one of the people that tipped Clonard for the championship, so I'm probably going to stay with them. But as a neutral, I don't care who wins. I just hope this one lives up to the billing, and I hope both teams just really go at it, go hell for tongs, because this has the potential to be the game of the championship. I think we're both going with Clonard in there, but it's as long as it's a good game, I don't care who wins.
Well,
If I'm honest.
I don't care if it's a bad game and Clonard win.
So we'll be back. We'll probably have our podcast on Monday night because the Clonard and Grange seconds is on. So our team of the week will be Tuesday as well. We'll wait till that game's over, but we'll be covering everything as we usually do with previews, match reports, and interviews and everything else. So keep an eye on all our social media channels. Mark, great to hear from you again. Thanks very much for coming on, and we look forward to a brilliant weekend of action.
No problem, Sean. Thank you.